we've entered the new year, I'm sure there's movie fans out there looking forward to the next big comic book movie, or a comedy film, or maybe even a A24 drama. Yeah, we see you with your hat and sunglasses. You're very fancy. But us cultured, intellectual beings will be looking forward to the horror movies of 2024. So let's talk about the most exciting ones getting released. And that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you. I scoured through the internet, I looked through release calendars, and these are the most exciting movies that we currently know of being released in 2024. There's always a couple that pop up around the corner that we didn't even know were being made or worked on that I'm sure will get released later on. But right now I have a packed list of some really strong contenders that could end up being your favorite of this year. Timestamps will be in the description for every single movie, and please, I'd love for you to compile your 10 most anticipated horror movies out of the ones I just talked about. Alright, kicking things off here, let's go with a couple of movies we know are set to release in 2024, but as of right now, they do not have release dates. Kicking things off here with A24's Maxxxine, the third film in the X and Pearl trilogy. We're going to be following Mia Goth play Maxxxine once again, the surviving member from X, this time moving to LA, trying to put the trauma behind her, and also attempting to become a star. It's supposed to be set in the backdrop of the VHS corn era, so the corn industry is definitely going to be a thing in this movie. It's said that there's a slasher on the loose in LA, and I'm sure Maxxxine will come in contact with him. Like, really, this has just been one of the most unique and refreshing horror trilogies out there, with every movie feeling kind of distinctly different with each other, but all having the theme of wanting fame, of wanting some sort of fortune. And well, Mia Goth has just become a horror icon. I can't wait for this one. I need a release date and a trailer, A24. Another horror movie being released sometime in 2024 is named Cuckoo, but we really only have one image of this movie. It's going to be starring Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens. The only description we have about the movie goes as a 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. Next up here, we have a movie entitled In a Violent Nature. This will be releasing sometime in 2024 on the streaming service Shudder. We only have this one image of the movie. It's described as a slasher with the plot going, the slasher film follows an undead monster on a rampage journey through the remote wilderness. Anytime you could try and make a new slasher movie head my way, it's just immediately going on my list. Also, bonus points for making sure that this slasher isn't just a guy in a black suit with a random mask. At least he's got some style to him. The next horror movie without a release date coming in 2024 is Longlegs. There's a lot of mystery going on with this film. In fact, it seems like the first teaser trailer might have just landed online, but the studio Neon is being so secretive they are not confirming what movie this is for. The movie stars Nicolas Cage as a serial killer and Micah Monroe, who'll be playing the FBI agent trying to hunt him down. The plot reads, FBI agent Lee Harker is assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes unexpected turns, revealing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. Funny enough, the trailer for this movie is actually playing in theaters right now with the movie Night Swim. It has leaked online for fear of copy strike. I'm not going to show it to you, but I couldn't help but to take a peek at it, and it looks pretty exciting. Next up, Salem's Lot. This is a movie that currently right now doesn't have a release date, and there's been a lot of weird delays with it. It was set to come out in theaters last year, but then Warner Brothers, being the company they are, decided it should maybe be a straight-to-streaming movie. And right now it's still up in the air whether it'll come out on streaming or theaters this year. But this is based off of Stephen King's story that goes, haunted by an incident from his childhood, author Ben Mears returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot in search of inspiration for his next book, only to discover the town is being preyed upon by a bloodthirsty vampire and his loyal servant. Hopefully Warner Brothers gets their act together and they get this movie released, because I've seen a lot of horror fans wonder what's going on with this movie and when can I watch it. And the next two horror movies being released this year are actually directed by YouTubers. We have one, Shelby Oaks, that is directed by Chris Stuckman, who's had a long career reviewing movies here on YouTube, and he's finally decided to make his own horror movie. The plot currently reads, a woman's desperate search for her long-lost sister falls into obsession upon realizing that the imaginary demon from their childhood may have been real. Look, 5 years ago, the bar was set really low for YouTubers turned movie directors, but after people like Talk to Me, the Rocka Rocker YouTube brothers, came out with that movie and that being one of the best films of last year, standards are getting higher. Of course, as a YouTuber myself, I am rooting for Chris Stuckman and hopes he knocks it out of the park, and I'm going to be curious to see how this pans out. Another movie here by a famous YouTuber with a much larger fan base, The Iron Lung. This movie is being directed by Markiplier. It's based off an indie horror game that Markiplier did play on his channel. There are 2 teasers online that don't give you much of an idea of what's going on, but the plot of the movie currently goes as set in the post-apocalyptic future where an event known as the Quiet Rapture caused all known stars and inhabited planets in the universe to disappear, a convict is sent to search an ocean of blood using a poorly constructed submarine nicknamed the Iron Lung. And so far, with the little footage that we've seen in that teaser image, I am kind of hyped to see this. I want to see what Markiplier has in his mind. I never really thought of him as making something, but feels like he cooked. But now going into the horror movies that have release dates in order from the beginning of this year to the end, starting off with Night Swim. The movie follows an average family who moves into their home with a pool in the back only to discover that it's haunted. This is a Blumhouse horror movie. I actually got to see it and it's aight. It's definitely a January horror movie, but I think we have seen way worse. If you check this out one night on streaming, I think you'll maybe enjoy it, but it's filled with a lot of horror cliches, things that we've seen done a dozen times in haunted object entity type movies. I don't think it's anything to rush out and see right now. Then on January 19th, we have the I.S.S. Now, I've seen the trailer for this movie pop up, and it looks really good. The movie takes place on the International Space Station right above our atmosphere, where an American team and a Russian team usually work in harmony, but after nuclear war rains down on Earth, these two teams on opposite sides of the war must now fight for ownership of the space station. It looks pretty intense from the trailers, and I really am loving the space station location. I think it could add for some creative, thrilling moments. Yeah, this is one I'm gonna want to check out. And on that same weekend, January 19th, we have the release of Founders Day. This kind of a low-budget horror slasher movie that is their own version of like the Thanksgiving horror movie we got just a couple of months back. The current plot reads, a small town is shaken by a series of ominous killings in the days leading up to a heated mayoral election. I honestly was not expecting much from this movie based off the trailers because it just looked kind of standard and average, but right now it is rocking a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. This could be a hidden gem no one's talking about. I'm also liking the design of the slasher in this movie. That red mask with the wig and the javel like he's a judge. I'm like, okay, there could be something fun here. Then on February 9th, we get a movie called Lisa Frankenstein that is a horror comedy. The premise goes, a misunderstood teenager and a reanimated corpse embark on a murderous journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. The trailer actually didn't seem all that bad. It looks like it could be for a fun time. I'm very picky when it comes to horror comedies, but when they land, oh boy, do they land. Then in March, we'll finally be getting the first Mickey Mouse horror movie ever made called Mickey's Mousetrap. The trailer has landed online, and this is all because Steamboat Willie, the first iteration of Mickey Mouse, is now public domain. The movie's plot is, it's Alexa's 21st birthday, but she's stuck at the amusement arcade on a late shift, so her friends decide to surprise her, but a masked killer dressed as Mickey Mouse decides to play a game of his own with them, which she must survive. And yeah, it looks just as bad as it sounds. The only reason this is going to get some sort of traction is just the curiosity to see a Mickey Mouse horror movie. And this ain't the only one we're getting this year. Then on March 8th, we get the release of another Blumhouse horror movie entitled Imaginary. The plot goes, a woman returns to her childhood home to discover that her imaginary friend she left behind is very real and unhappy that she abandoned him. Now, I actually think the premise and concept of this movie sounds really great. The only thing holding me back is the director, Jeff Wadlow. He's been responsible for some of my least favorite Blumhouse horror movies like Truth or Dare or Fantasy Island. I am hoping though that this will be the first one I truly enjoy of his, especially with the imagery of an evil teddy bear going up. If that's the whole movie, you got me, man. We need more evil teddy bear movies. But for now, I remain a little hesitant. Still, I'm gonna want to see it. Then on March 22nd, we have a movie entitled Late Night with the Devil that sounds super intriguing. The plot goes, a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living room. The movie stars David Dastmalchian as this sort of talk show host when he's trying to do a segment on exorcisms and demons when it actually starts to happen live on TV. There's no trailers online, but this movie premiered at film festivals last year, so you can look up reviews of the movie, and all the reviews I've seen of people who got to see the movie at the film festival say that this is a really good movie and it's one to look out for when it gets a wide release. So I'm telling you now, to look out for it, because I think it sounds good. Then on March 26th, we have the release of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, and you know what? I'm actually looking forward to it this time. While the first time it was out of pure curiosity, this time around, they actually have a real budget to make something. The trailer for this movie is going to be releasing at the end of January, and the current plot that we have is Pooh Bear hunting Christopher Robin once again. But now that they actually have $1 million budget as opposed to the $100,000 budget they had in the first movie, they've added real prosthetics onto the actors so it no longer looks like guys in masks. They've added multiple Winnie the Pooh characters characters from Piglet, the Owl, and Tigger. This is also part of their fairy tale horror cinematic universe because Bambi the Reckoning also begins filming later this year and it's connected to this universe. This is probably trash garbage I shouldn't be that excited for, but as a horror fan, you're kind of interested, aren't you? I am too. Then on March 29th, we have the release of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, I do realize Ghostbusters sometimes isn't really considered a horror movie, but it kept popping up in every horror movie list when I was doing research for them, so I thought, why not add it to the list? This time set in New York City, we'll be following the heroes from the last movie in a classic Ghostbusters adventure, trying to save the Big Apple from an ice age. I'm actually most excited about this movie because it looks like they're finally trying to tell their own story and not hinge on nostalgia and previous villains from the franchise. This ice-looking monster I think is really cool. They got new upgraded Ghostbuster jackets. I'm excited enough for this, but I kind of miss the days when Ghostbusters was all the rage. I feel like the fan base isn't as loud as it used to be. Then on April 5th, we get the release of The First Omen, which just dropped a trailer a few days ago, and although I thought I had no interest in checking out this movie, that trailer kind of reeled me in. The movie's plot goes, when a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, she encounters a darkness that causes her to question her own faith and uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring the birth of evil incarnate. And based off the look of the first trailer, it looks like the church is wanting to create the devil itself so that people then fear something and then turn to the church for more members. Kind of a genius idea if you ask me. If that's the idea and premise they're going with for this First Omen, oh, I want to see it. I usually just like the movie because it's cool to see an evil little kid do evil things. Let's see an evil baby do evil baby things. The next horror movie here I'm buying 100 tickets to out of spite for Spyglass and the way they ruined the Scream franchise, an Untitled monster movie starring Melissa Barrera and directed by Radio Silence, the people who directed Scream 5 and 6. Now, as of right now, there isn't any official stills, looks, or even information about this movie, but from what we have heard about it, it's supposed to be a Dracula movie, but it's not your typical Dracula film. It's going to be about this couple who goes about kidnapping a daughter only to find out they accidentally kidnapped the daughter of Dracula and must now face the consequences. It's basically a modern, unique spin on a classic Universal monster, and I think that's just a great idea. I also just want Melissa Barrera to continue doing great in Hollywood just because of how dirty I think she was done by Spyglass. So this is one I'm for sure throwing on my list, and I hope it turns out good. Then on May 10th, we will get the release of a movie entitled Horrorscope that is going to be starring Jacob Batalon, who you might remember as playing Ned in the Spider-Man trilogy. The current plot reads, a group of college friends begin dying in ways connected to their fortunes after getting their horoscopes read. Look, this is obviously going to be one of those ridiculous simple premise movies that could go terribly so quick, but if done right, this could be like a guilty pleasure fun time at the movies. Yes, we always hope there to be an amazing horror film, but sometimes watching a campy, cheesy, just dumb horror movie is just as fun. Then on May 17th, we get the release of The Strangers Chapter 1. This is the reboot to the classic Strangers films, and they have already made 3 of these. Starring Madeline Pesh, the current plot for the first movie reads, a young couple drives cross-country towards a new beginning. Unfortunately, they have no choice but to stop in a secluded Airbnb in Oregon and endure a night of terror against 3 masked strangers. Now, the interesting thing is, we know that they will be releasing part 2 and 3 also sometime this year, but there isn't a release date. We only know the release date for this first movie right now, and the directors have already described that the first movie is essentially almost a remake of the original, and the other 2 movies are going to go in a completely different, new and unique way. While I'm looking forward to this first movie, I kind of more want to see what they do differently with part 2 and 3. Then on June 7th, we have the release of The Watchers, which is a movie that is being directed by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. Aishana Shyamalan's first movie goes as following Mina, a 28-year-old artist, as she gets stranded in an extensive, immaculate forest in Western Ireland. After finding shelter, she becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers stalked by a mysterious creature each night. Now, we all know M. Night Shyamalan is a very recognizable director name. Some people absolutely love his movies. Some think he's a hack who just relies on twists. To me, I always look forward to an M. Night Shyamalan movie because I know it'll be something unique and different, even if I don't exactly love the film. And now it must be exciting for him that his own daughter is following in his footsteps, wanting to be a director, and well, let's see how far the apple fell from the tree. Is she gonna rely on twist? Is she gonna be better than her daddy? I'm curious. All I know is M. Night's probably really proud. Then on June 28th, we have the release of A Quiet Place Day 1. Probably one of the horror movies I'm most looking forward to this year. This one, unfortunately, is not directed by John Krasinski and is more of a spin-off story to the last couple Quiet Place movies, where we're going to be following a group of strangers on the first day of the alien invasion where these creatures came down, but instead of a small country town, it'll be in a city. The film is starring Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, Alex Wolff. The cast looks pretty great. I've enjoyed every single A Quiet Place movie, and I think there's just something so exciting about seeing the first day of an alien invasion and how people plan to survive and figure out the weaknesses and things with this monster. I'm gonna check this one out. Then on August 2nd, we have the release of Trap, a movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan. We just talked about his daughter, and the man is gonna have his own horror movie this same year. There's actually a lot of secrecy with this movie, and we don't know too much about it other than the description that it's a psychological thriller set at a concert. And again, I'm intrigued. I'm excited. M. Night Shyamalan brings something new and different every time. I like his directive vision. Whether I enjoy the twist or the plot of the movie as a whole will be a completely different thing, but you can always count me in on buying a ticket to an M. Night Shyamalan movie because yes, bring me something new. Then on August 9th, we get the release of Speak No Evil. Now, this is actually an American remake of a horror film that just came out 2 years ago. It was a Danish horror film, and I remember a lot of people saying it was like one effed up movie, that the ending scars you. It's still on my list to watch, so unfortunately I can't give you my thoughts on it. But the American version currently has a synopsis of a dream holiday in a beautiful country house becomes a psychological nightmare. It's going to be starring James McAvoy and Mackenzie Davis. We kind of rarely see American remakes surpass the original creation, but there's always a chance, and if that one was effed up, let's just see how effed up we made it. Then on August 16th, we get the release of Alien Romulus. Oh, Alien is back in the horror genre, baby. This time going with a bit of a simple premise and not directly connected to any of the past Alien movies. It follows a distant planet where some young adults come across a xenomorph and havoc ensues. This is being directed by Fede Alvarez, who's done great horror works in the past, whether it's Don't Breathe or the Evil Dead remake. And seeing that he has such a history with horror movies, I just know he's gonna make the xenomorph scary again. I'm just really hoping Alien Romulus is what Prey did for the Predator franchise, because that kind of got people excited about Predator again. Then on September 6th, we have Beetlejuice 2. The long-awaited sequel is finally here, and I've seen a lot of people excited for this. We don't have much of a premise, but we know Winona Ryder is going to be returning to the role. It is also going to be starring Jenna Ortega. We have seen set photos of her on set. Michael Keaton will also be reprising the role of Beetlejuice. Look, I wish I was as big of a Beetlejuice fan as a lot of people out there, because I have seen the hype. I've just never seemed to connect with the film the way other people do. But hey, I'm happy for you, and I'm going to be checking it out for Jenna Ortega. Then on September 27th, we will get the release of Saw 11. This is super exciting if you're a fan of the Saw franchise, because it'll finally be a Saw movie that will have some sort of continuation from the last story. The last 3 to 4 Saw movies that we've gotten released have never directly connected to each other, where it was the end of Saw 3D, Jigsaw, Spiral. All those movies were just going off on different tangents. But with the success of Saw X, both critically and financially, it seems that they know what the fans want, and I'm curious to see what they plan to deliver. No plot details as of now, but producers have said that they do want to bring back Cecilia, the villain from the last movie. It'll also most likely be another in-between sequel, so maybe taking place between the events of Saw 2 and Saw 3. But we shall wait and see what they cook, and hopefully it's something good. Then in October, we're going to get the release of a movie entitled Stream. This is a low-budget horror movie that's made from the producers of the Terrifier franchise. The plot synopsis goes, when Roy and Elena realize their family is drifting apart, they decide that something needs to be done. Roy forces his work to take a back seat, and they seize the opportunity to recreate a vacation from their past. A peaceful stay in a quaint hotel is just what they need. However, this is not what's in store for them, with 4 deranged murderers patrolling the seemingly mundane halls. The odds are definitely not in the family's favor. While this does look very low budget, we felt the same way with the Terrifier franchise, and now that's starting to work its way into the mainstream and becoming a mega hit. The producers of Terrifier did that once, maybe they can do that again with Stream. Another movie that looks like it'll be released sometime in October is the next Mickey Mouse horror movie. This one also has some producers from the Terrifier franchise, and they'll be following the story of Steamboat Willie a little bit closer this time. So far, we only have this first look image of the vibe that they're wanting wanting to go for, and it'll be a movie about ferry passengers who are stalked by this Mickey Mouse killer. I just can't believe we're getting a year with 2 Mickey Mouse horror movies. At least this one is following in line with the story of Steamboat Willie, so it's staying true to the character if that matters to you. This was also by the people who did the Grinch horror movie, The Mean One, so I'm kind of not really expecting much, but hey, it's another one to maybe look out for. Then on Friday, October 18th, we get the release of Smile 2. I did not think we would be getting a sequel to Smile, but that was kind of a surprise hit for me, and I ended up really enjoying that, and I'm curious to see how they continue the lore and build out this world. All that we know so far is that Naomi Scott will be playing the lead role, which I am kind of sad about because I was hoping Kyle Gallner, who was in the last movie, was taking on the lead role, but looks like that won't be happening. Here's hoping this does something new and fresh and keep things going and not just kind of retelling the same story just with a different person. Then on October 25th, we got Blumhouse releasing what will probably be their best movie this year, The Wolfman. Director Leigh Whannell, who did The Invisible Man for Blumhouse, is stepping back into a Universal monster horror movie with a plot going about a man and his family who have been scared to death by a deadly predator. The movie stars Christopher Abbott, who will also most likely be playing the Wolfman. Ryan Gosling was at one point supposed to be the star of this movie, but he dropped out. Still though, my entire faith on this movie relies on Leigh Whannell because he has not steered me wrong. I've enjoyed every single one of his horror movies, and I feel like he's gonna do something great with the Wolfman. Then on October 25th, Christmas comes early with the release of Terrifier 3. Set in the backdrop of Christmas, Art the Clown begins haunting a town on Christmas Eve. That first teaser they released already stirred up so much controversy about whether it should be fine that Art the Clown is taking down a couple of kids before Christmas, but that's kind of what the series is. It's pushing the envelope, it's being grotesque, it's being violent. The last movie started introducing story elements and backstory into Art the Clown, and I'm hoping that the third movie will answer those questions. I don't want it to just be a bunch of grotesque, nasty scenes, which are awesome, but I would love it more if Terrifier 3 elevated itself beyond that. Then on December 25th, we will get the release of Nosferatu. This is being directed by Robert Eggers, and it has Bill Skarsgård starring as the vampire Nosferatu. Nicholas Hoult and William Dafoe is also part of the cast. Look, I think this director is really what is making me excited about this movie. I loved what he did with The Northman. We only have a few shots of what it's going to end up looking like, but the plot currently reads a goth tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. Sounds like the perfect Christmas movie to me. And that right there, my friends, I think are the most exciting or intriguing horror movies that we're currently aware of for 2024. I would really love to know your list down below of the ones you're most excited for, top 5, top 10. If there's any I did miss that I didn't add onto the list, please let me know down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.